The setting is a mother speaking with her daughter, which it is. So we'll be interested in seeing how this is handled. Thank you.
Mom, can we have Sister Penny come over for dinner?
Sure, Hannah, we can do that. Why? What made you think of that?
I heard Sister Penny talking out in service, and she said that she feels lonely in the winter. I thought it was because of the weather. I thought that she could come over for a dinner party with us. She wouldn't feel lonely, so lonely. No one feels lonely at our house.
That was nice of you to think of her, Hannah. Why don't you write up an invitation, and then we can ask Katie and Matthew what we should make for dinner. This reminds me of a story in Genesis. Do you remember Abraham?
Yes, did he have a dinner party?
Yes, he was very hospitable. Do you know what hospitable means?
Sorry. Did he, no, it doesn't mean he was. Does it mean he was in a hospital?
Well, it sounds like it, doesn't it? That's because way back in olden times, hospitals weren't really used for sick people. They sometimes did help sick people, but they were mostly used for travelers who had to stay overnight. They were welcomed as guests and protected and given food and shelter. In this case, hospitable means that Abraham was very generous. He gave his time and his food, and he shared his time and home and food with his friends and strangers and made them feel welcome, just like we want to do for Sister Penny. Do you remember the story of Abraham's dinner party?
No.
Well, Abraham had been sitting in the entrance of his tent when he looked up and he saw three men coming. Why don't we read that story? It's in Genesis 18, 1-8. I'll read that, okay? It says, afterward, Jehovah appeared to him among the big trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of the tent during the hottest part of the day. He looked up and saw three men standing some distance from him. When he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground. Then he said, Jehovah, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass by your servant. Please let a little water be brought and have your feet washed, then recline under the tree. Seeing that you have come here to your servant, let me bring a piece of bread so that you may refresh yourselves. Then you may go on your way. At this they said, all right, you may do as you have spoken. So Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah and said, quick, get 3 measures of fine flour, knead the dough, and make loaves of bread. Next, Abraham ran to the herd and chose a tender and good young bull. He gave it to the attendant who hurried to prepare it. And then he took butter and milk and the young bull that he had prepared and set the food before them. Then he stood by them under the tree as they were eating. So how did Abraham treat these visitors?
He had them for dinner, but he did lots of work. Did he make everything special?
Well, his wife Sarah and servants helped, but you can see that Abraham didn't just sit back and do nothing. He didn't just give orders. He helped and he oversaw everything, even though the scripture said it was the hottest part of the day and he wasn't a young man. So he was probably very hot and uncomfortable, and he might have even been tired. But he was determined to make these men feel welcome, and they turned out to be angels. And how would you feel if we had visiting guests over and they turned out to be angels?
Wow, that would be awesome.
What do you think this tells us about how Jehovah felt about Abraham, that he sent his angels to visit him?
He must have thought that he was very special.
Yes, he did. And you know what special news those angels gave Abraham that day?
Was it that his wife was going to have a baby?
That's exactly what they told her. Can you read Hebrews 13 and verse 2?
It says, "Do not forget hospitality for others, for through it some unknowingly entertain angels."
You know what, Hannah, this scripture always reminded me of Abraham, but you know what?
What?
Now sometimes this scripture reminds me pardon me, of you and Katie and Matthew too. Because you show the same spirit of hospitality that Abraham showed. And I'm so proud of you, Hannah. For thinking of Sister Penny and for wanting to be hospitable to her. And I know Jehovah's proud of you too.
Read. So I'm like Abraham, that's so cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's go talk to Katie and Matthew and decide what we're going to make for dinner, okay?
Okay, but they'll only be interested in the desserts. Should we make cheesecake?
Sure.